The Phoenix Dream cut through the Pacific waters like a floating palace, its 180-foot length gleaming white against the deep blue ocean. The yacht's 3 decks sparkled with crystal and gold accents, while uniformed crew members moved silently between guests offering champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's monthly rent. Mom and Dad's 35th wedding anniversary celebration was unfolding exactly as they'd dreamed, surrounded by luxury, attended by their closest friends and family, with nothing but endless ocean stretching toward the horizon. I stood at the stern deck railing in my simple navy dress from Target, watching dolphins play in the yacht's wake while the party continued around me. The guest list read like a who's who of the city's social elite: business leaders, philanthropists, political figures, and their perfectly dressed spouses, all celebrating my parents' enduring marriage with the kind of extravagance that only serious money could buy. My sister Victoria commanded attention near the main bar, her designer gowns sparkling with crystals that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her husband Marcus stood beside her in his custom Italian suit, both of them radiating the confidence that came from never having worried about money. They'd just returned from their estate in the French countryside and were regaling anyone who'd listen with stories about wine tastings and private tours of historic chateaus. "Sarah." Victoria's voice carried across the deck as she spotted me by the railing. "Come over here, I want you to meet some people." I walked over with my glass of sparkling water, knowing exactly what was coming. This was Victoria's favorite party performance, introducing her struggling sister to successful people so she could demonstrate her own superiority by comparison. "Everyone," Victoria announced to the circle of well-dressed guests, "this is my little sister Sarah. She's still trying to find her way in life." The group smiled politely, the kind of expressions people wear when they're about to witness someone else's mild embarrassment for entertainment. "What do you do, Sarah?" asked Eleanor Hartley, wife of the city's most prominent real estate developer. "I work in consulting," I said simply. "Consulting," Victoria repeated with a laugh. "She means she does freelance work on her laptop. You know, the gig economy. Very modern, very uncertain." "It's actually project-based business consulting," I clarified. "Which is code for unemployed but too proud to admit it," Marcus added with his usual smirk. "Some of us have actual careers with actual companies. I'm a senior partner at Davidson & Associates. Victoria runs her interior design firm. We understand what real success looks like." The circle of successful people nodded with understanding. Everyone knew someone like me, the family member who just couldn't seem to get their act together despite having every advantage. "The thing is," Victoria continued, warming to her favorite theme, "look around at this yacht. Look at this lifestyle. This is what success creates. The ability to rent a luxury yacht for family celebrations, to travel the world, to live without constantly worrying about money." She gestured around the opulent surroundings with obvious pride. "Sarah will never afford anything like this," she declared. "Look at her clothes, Walmart specials probably bought on sale. While Marcus and I are building generational wealth, she's still figuring out how to pay rent on time." The group chuckled politely at her observation. "Not everyone is cut out for high-level success," Eleanor said diplomatically. "It takes a particular kind of vision and drive." "Exactly," Victoria agreed. "Take our family for example. Dad built a successful law practice. Mom created one of the most respected charity organizations in the state. Marcus and I have our respective businesses, we own property in 3 countries, we understand investments and market dynamics. But Sarah..." She shook her head with theatrical sadness. "Still living in that tiny apartment downtown, still driving that ancient Honda from college, still pretending that freelance consulting is a real career. It's honestly a bit embarrassing at family gatherings." I took a sip of my sparkling water and listened to them discuss various luxury experiences they'd enjoyed: vacation homes in Aspen, wine collections worth more than most people's houses, art purchases that required climate-controlled storage. Standard wealthy person conversation that I'd grown up hearing but had supposedly never learned to participate in. The yacht's engines hummed quietly beneath our feet as we moved further from shore. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the main salon, I could see Mom and Dad holding court with their longtime friends, everyone looking perfectly content in the floating paradise they'd chosen for their milestone celebration. "You know what the real difference is?" Victoria was saying, her voice getting louder as she warmed to her audience. "Vision and execution. Sarah has always been a dreamer, but she's never learned how to turn dreams into reality. Dreams without execution are just fantasies, Marcus added knowingly. That's what separates people like us from people like Sarah. My phone buzzed quietly with a notification from my yacht management company. Phoenix Dream Anniversary Charter proceeding perfectly. All guest requests fulfilled. Captain Henderson confirms 6 p.m. announcement as planned. I typed back discreetly, perfect. Make sure the timing is exactly right. Are you texting during our parents' anniversary? Victoria's voice carried disapproval and amusement in equal measure. Let me guess, some urgent freelance crisis that can't wait? Just confirming tomorrow's schedule, I said. See what I mean, she said to the group. While we're enjoying this incredible experience, she's worried about whatever small project she's working on. No ability to live in the moment, to appreciate luxury when she experiences it. Eleanor nodded sympathetically. Well, at least she gets to enjoy occasions like this through family connections. Not everyone can afford to charter a yacht like the Phoenix Dream. That's exactly my point, Victoria said, gesturing around the yacht's magnificent interior. This yacht probably costs $50,000 just for today's charter. The crew, the catering, the premium everything. It's a level of expense that requires serious wealth to even consider. More than 50,000, Marcus corrected. A yacht like this, with this level of service, probably runs closer to 80,000 for a full-day charter. Plus gratuities, plus the catering, plus the premium bar service. We're easily looking at over $100,000 for today's celebration. The group murmured appreciatively at the impressive expense. $100,000, Victoria repeated with satisfaction. That's more than Sarah makes in 6 months of her little consulting projects. This single day costs more than her entire annual income. I checked my watch. 5:58 p.m. Almost time. The real tragedy, Victoria continued, is that Sarah could have had all of this if she'd made better choices. She had the same education, the same family connections, the same opportunities. But some people just don't have the ambition to build something meaningful. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of the yacht's intercom system crackling to life. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Henderson's professional voice filled the entire yacht. Welcome aboard the Phoenix Dream for this beautiful anniversary celebration. The party quieted as guests turned their attention to the captain's announcement. As we continue our journey along the coast this evening, he continued, I wanted to personally thank our guests for choosing the Phoenix Dream for this special occasion. Victoria smiled with satisfaction, clearly pleased to be associated with such an exclusive experience. I also wanted to take this opportunity, Captain Henderson said, to introduce the yacht's owner who has generously made the Phoenix Dream available for today's celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Ms. Sarah Mitchell. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ocean waves against the yacht's hull. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her suddenly nerveless fingers and shattered on the deck, sending Dom Perignon splashing across her designer gown. Sarah Mitchell? Eleanor whispered, staring at me with wide eyes. That would be me, I said calmly. Marcus made a sound like he was choking on his own tongue. You own this yacht? Phoenix Dream, yes. She's part of my fleet. Your fleet. Victoria's voice came out about 3 octaves higher than usual. I own 7 yachts currently. Phoenix Dream is actually one of the smaller ones, 180 feet. The flagship is 240 feet. The circle of successful people was staring at me like I'd announced I was from another planet. Sarah, Dad's voice came from behind me as he approached with Mom, both of them beaming with pride. We can't thank you enough for this incredible gift. When you said you wanted to handle the anniversary celebration, we never imagined anything this magnificent. It's my pleasure, I said, hugging them both. 35 years of marriage deserves a special celebration. Your yacht. Mom said, her voice filled with wonder. Sarah, how is this possible? Mitchell Maritime Holdings, I explained. We own and operate luxury yacht charters along the West Coast. Phoenix Dream is our newest acquisition. Victoria found her voice, though it came out shaky. Sarah, what the hell is Mitchell Maritime Holdings? My company. I started it 6 years ago with a single charter boat. We now operate the largest luxury yacht charter service on the Pacific coast. Eleanor leaned forward with obvious fascination. Sarah, when you say largest, 43 vessels ranging from 80-foot sport yachts to 300-foot mega yachts. Annual revenue of approximately $280 million. The number hung in the air like expensive perfume. $280 million, Marcus repeated mechanically as if saying it might make sense. That's gross revenue, I clarified. Net profit is around $95 million annually. The maritime luxury industry has excellent margins when you operate at scale. Victoria sat down heavily on the nearest deck chair, her designer gown still stained with champagne. Sarah, I don't understand. How could you possibly afford the first boat? I saved for 4 years while working at the marina downtown. Learned everything I could about yacht operations, maintenance, guest services, maritime regulations. When a 60-foot charter boat went into foreclosure, I bought it with savings and a business loan. How much savings? Eleanor asked, clearly fascinated. $80,000. Plus a $400,000 loan at 8% interest. Pretty risky, but I knew the charter business had potential if you focused on exceptional service. Dad was staring at me with a mixture of pride and confusion. You've been doing this for 6 years. 6.5 actually. The marina job was perfect training. I learned boat maintenance, guest relations, charter operations, everything from the dock up. Plus, living in that tiny apartment kept my expenses low so I could reinvest every penny of profit. The tiny apartment, Mom said slowly, that Victoria always criticized, was a strategic choice. Why pay high rent when I was building equity in maritime assets? Every dollar I saved on personal expenses was a dollar I could invest in boats. Captain Henderson appeared beside our group, his weathered face showing the satisfaction of a man who'd spent 40 years on the water. Ms. Mitchell, he said, the sunset dinner service is ready whenever you'd like it served. The galley chef has prepared everything according to your specifications. Thank you, Captain. Please proceed with the service. He nodded and walked away to coordinate with the crew. Captain Henderson has been with us for 3 years, I explained to the stunned group. He used to captain yachts for tech billionaires in Silicon Valley before I recruited him. Victoria was still staring at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Sarah, the lifestyle comments I made earlier, about me never affording this lifestyle? I finished. I heard you. You made your point very clearly. But we didn't know, Marcus protested. If we'd known you were successful, you would have treated me differently. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. Eleanor looked around our group with obvious discomfort. We should probably give you some family time to discuss this. Actually, Mrs. Hartley, I said, didn't you mention that your husband is looking for partners on that marina development project in Monterey? She nodded cautiously. Mitchell Maritime would be interested in discussing investment opportunities. We're always looking to expand our port facilities. Her eyes widened. You're serious? Very. Have him call our corporate office next week. We're specifically interested in marina developments that can accommodate our larger vessels. The Hartleys exchanged glances and made quick excuses to leave our conversation, probably to call her husband immediately. Sarah, Dad said, his voice still shaky with amazement, why didn't you tell us? All these years we thought. Thought what? That I was a failure because I lived simply and didn't broadcast my business success at every family gathering. Victoria found her voice again. But we were worried about you. We offered to help, to make connections. You offered me entry-level jobs at companies where I'd make less in a year than Phoenix Dream makes in a day, I corrected. And you did it while making jokes about my cheap clothes and old car. We were trying to motivate you, Marcus said weakly. By telling everyone I'd never afford this lifestyle? By using me as an example of what not to become. The yacht's dinner service began with obvious ceremony, servers in crisp white uniforms presenting courses that had been prepared by a chef recruited from Michelin-starred restaurants. Each dish was a work of art, paired with wines from my personal collection that I'd been building for years. The wine, Mom said, examining her glass. This is exceptional. 1998 Dom Perignon, I said. From my private cellar. We keep a selection on each yacht for special occasions. Victoria looked at her own glass with new understanding. How much does wine like this cost? About $800 per bottle. But it's worth it for celebrations like this. Marcus choked on his sip. $800? per bottle. The 2002 vintage will serve with dessert is $1,200. But today is special. Mom and Dad's 35th anniversary deserves the best. The sun was setting over the Pacific now, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples while the Phoenix Dreams lights began to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Around us, the party had transformed into something magical, guests moving between decks, enjoying the five-star dining service, taking photos against the backdrop of endless ocean. "Sarah," Victoria said quietly, her earlier confidence completely gone, "I owe you an apology. The things I said earlier about your lifestyle, your choices. You showed me who you really are," I said simply. "When you thought I was unsuccessful, when you thought it didn't matter what you said to me or about me." "But we're family," she protested. "Family supports each other. Like you supported me by calling me an embarrassment? By telling everyone I'd never amount to anything?" My phone buzzed with a message from my fleet manager. "Phoenix Majesty ready for tomorrow's Silicon Valley charter. Phoenix Sovereign booked solid through October. Q3 revenue up 23%. "I should check on the other boats," I said, glancing at the message. "We have 3 other charters running this weekend." "3 other charters?" Dad asked. "Phoenix Majesty is hosting a tech company retreat near San Francisco. Phoenix Sovereign has a week-long charter with a European family. Phoenix Liberty is doing a wedding charter in San Diego. Busy weekend." Victoria stared at me with something that looked like nausea. "Sarah, what's Mitchell Maritime Holdings worth?" "Current fleet valuation is around $340 million. Annual profit growth is averaging 35% year-over-year, so we're looking at significant expansion over the next decade." The number settled over our family group like fog rolling in from the ocean. $340 million, Mom repeated softly. "Plus the marina properties, the maintenance facilities and the hospitality partnerships. Total asset portfolio is closer to $500 million. Victoria put her head in her hands. "I called you an embarrassment. I said you'd never afford this lifestyle. While standing on my yacht," I pointed out. "Drinking my wine, eating food prepared by my chef, surrounded by a crew I personally hired and trained." Captain Henderson approached again, this time with a folder in his hands. "Ms. Mitchell, the evening's itinerary is proceeding perfectly. Should we prepare for the fireworks display at 9 p.m. as planned?" "Fireworks display?" Mom asked with delight. "I arranged for a private fireworks show over the ocean," I said. "Something special for your anniversary." "Sarah," Dad said, his eyes filling with tears, "this is the most incredible gift anyone has ever given us. You raised me to work hard and build something meaningful," I said. "Mitchell Maritime Holdings is what that looks like." As the evening progressed and the fireworks painted the sky in brilliant colors, I watched my family process their new understanding of who I really was. Not the struggling freelancer they'd dismissed for years, but the owner of the yacht they were celebrating on, the woman who'd built a maritime empire while they were making jokes about her Walmart clothes. Tomorrow, when they returned to their social circles, when their friends asked about the incredible anniversary celebration, when they tried to explain how their unsuccessful daughter had surprised them, things would be different. Not because I'd finally proven myself worthy of their respect, but because they'd finally learned the cost of assuming someone's worth based on appearances. Mitchell Maritime Holdings had bigger expansions planned, better vessels being built and more exclusive partnerships in development. And for the first time in 6 years, I wouldn't have to explain any of it to people who had already decided I wasn't worth listening to.